Really quick before we get started, there's a new analysis daily video up right now, and the rules for voting should be up by Wednesday. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll include a link in the description as well as an annotation here. This is FNGR, and today we're going to talk about the top 10 best episodes of MLP FIM Season 5. Before I did this, I sat down and asked myself, are there 10 great episodes? Notice I said great. I really didn't want to throw any, that's fine entries out there. Number 10, Castle Sweet Castle. This is gonna sound backhanded, but I hated at least half of this episode. Twilight and Spike in Castle Sweet Castle show so much promise for Season 5. Promise that sadly barely touched upon. But we'll get to see that later on in the list, ignoring Applejack, Rarity, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, and especially Rainbow Draft here. The promise of Spike having a great significance, the show staff addressing the castle, and moreover the loss of the tree. And this is from a guy who didn't care about the tree dying so much as that he enjoyed acting like a total tool about it dying. Number 9. Make new friends but keep Discord. This says a lot to have this that low on the list, because there's a lot to like in this episode. Problems? I understand it makes perfect sense to have Discord be super cringy in this episode, but it still makes a perfect trip a struggle at times to see someone act like an infant for 22 minutes. Don't get me wrong, it's vintage Discord. Handling jealousy as a focus point wears on one's nerves after a while. But the tropes, the humor, the visuals... If this episode was the best Discord, I think we'd be all in pretty good shape. Especially when you consider what about Discord. But between Discord becoming somewhat tiresome and well the smooths being well more of a nod than something special, yeah. Number 8, Crusaders of the Lost Mark. Yeah, I gushed over this episode, and yes, it is great. Much like the recent Star Wars movie, I feel like there were things that were missing. I wanted more silver spoons, I wanted more of DT's parents, I wanted more foreshadowing. Now I know I've been told, well, what if this episode was self-contained and it should be higher up in that case? But this isn't a self-contained episode in any way, shape, or form. This episode is a compilation of 5 seasons. Am I as annoyed as, say, Equestria games? Well, of course not. The Cutie Mark Crusaders got their cutie marks on screen. Diamond Tiara told her mom off on screen. We got to see the main attraction instead of hearing about it in the background. Did I get sucked into 5 years of hype? Well, shouldn't any fan? Keep in mind, like, make new friends but keep Discord, the only reason this is lower is because I felt the other episodes just offered more. Number 7, Canterlot Boutique. You heard me, I said 7. I'm not really a Rarity fan. That said, this is a pretty boss episode. My issues with Suited for Success are where Rarity's friends are forced to act stupid just so that there's a conflict. Sassy Saddles isn't so painfully obnoxious or as obvious as Siri Polymere for Rarity Takes Manhattan. There is an interesting conflict where no one is exactly wrong, and the issue simply happens because of a misunderstanding. Canterlot Boutique proves MLP FIM can in fact be well written, it can be intelligent, and if you put this episode at number 1, you'd be well within your rights. I just like the other episodes better. I could sit here and come up with a bunch of reasons why, but nothing is leaping out at me as painful, or anything that might be can easily be summed up as a design choice, so this episode can proceed cleanly. When Rarity's friends take off, it allows Rarity to learn the lessons and deal with things for herself. Number 6, the Cutie Map Episode 2. Starlight Glimmer going off the deep end on Twilight Sparkle.
Quiet!
The townfolk saving the day and the bad guy getting away for once. Well, besides Flim and Flam and Trixie. You know what I mean. That and I'm a sucker for a good premiere. Number 5, Scare Master, aka the best Fluttershy episode in the show. In fact, this is my number 1 wishlist episode. You know, the one where friendship doesn't in fact save the day, and we end on a bittersweet note. This was the ending I was never gonna get. But FNGR, why isn't this episode higher up on your list, you ask? Isn't this the sort of thing that an annoying film snob would eat up? And you're right, if I were a stereotypical film snob and screaming out, the show should have done exactly like this or it's terrible, this episode would be my waifu, and you know what? I'm big enough to admit my hopes and dreams for the show aren't the best ideas. Good luck finding anyone else to say that. There are some painful moments where Fluttershy gets unbearably unreasonable about her shyness, but I think this episode is perfect for what it sets out to do. And brother, we got 4 more episodes to go. Number 4, Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep? I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm a Luna fanboy, and And there's some really well thought out criticisms against this episode, ones I can wholeheartedly agree with. The difference being is that I enjoy watching Luna twist in the wind. The fact that she's torturing herself this whole time is entirely out of place for a children's cartoon, and quite frankly, that gives me a sick amusement. Not just that, but they managed to blow out all the stops in this episode in the dream realm, without it feeling like an abortion like episode 100. One of Pinky's best roles is a supporting character. I wouldn't change a darn thing in this episode. But think of the children! Yeah, well, I don't care. I suggest you lighten up. Number 3, The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone. Ah, the waifu of episodes. I've had people point out the important part of Griffin the Brush-Off was, it's about the friend you can't have. For me, I simply think that's not a lesson for a show or a book, or even something your parents can teach you. That's something you learn for yourself. It's for the individual and how much nonsense that you can put up with out of your friends, and ultimately, that decision will come from your hands whether or not to keep that person. Gilda got a second chance, and with all that redemption floating around, why not? I legitimately felt emotionally touched when Gilda chose to save Rainbow Dash. Especially Season 5 Rainbow Dash. Personally, I would have grabbed the cup, but that's just me. And while I found this episode was literally everything wrong with Rainbow Draft, Pinky is just bullseye on top of bullseye. Gilda is a lovable jerk and even more fun than Discord was in this season. And that's for a character I didn't care about till now. Number 2, The Cutie Remark Part 1. One word, sombre. That's all. Just all the win. This episode was complete fanfiction wish fulfillment, and I loved every moment of it. Starlight Glimmer steps into her own by hijacking time travel and unleashing plague upon pony kind, and regretfully, I feel this starts strong and gets weaker and weaker, which is why I felt more comfortable putting in the Cutie Remark Part 1 in my top 10. Sure, there's a couple of time-traveling boners, but that's always going to be part of that trope. If you don't accept the ride, I feel sorry for you and I wish you the best. But if you're gonna throw the rules out the window, which I will admit Haber did, this is how it's done, kids. Like my guidance counselor used to say in college, if you're gonna sin, sin boldly. Number 1. Amending fences. You know, after seeing Slice of Life, Princess Spike, and Party Pooped, I was starting to yell at Tom to hold the door open for me. I really needed something amazing to stick around. I needed Twilight, I needed background characters that were fun, I needed some continuity nods. Okay, Spike gives Twilight a mental breakdown, and they take off only to run into Twilight's old friends. One of those friends happens to be channeling Kathy Bates from Misery. So I'm going to ask, does anything remarkably amazing happen in this episode? Moondancer could have easily have gone on with her life and functioned, so truth be told, the stakes are pretty low. The episode even draws attention to this by Twilight's friends even laughing this off, as they had moved on. What sells this episode is exactly what sells the episode in Party of One. Twilight is treating the whole situation as world-ending, and considering her character, it's totally believable. In fact, this is the most mileage the show has gotten out of Princess Twilight in Season 5, or quite frankly anywhere that we've gotten mileage out of Princess Twilight. Well, am I horribly biased for putting this episode here? Well, duh. But to be fair, this episode is very much in the spirit of the show. New characters are handled well, and old characters are handled excellently. Spike isn't abused to move things along, and this episode hits all the notes while being cute, funny, and there's so much going on, and yet it's so simple. Now, if you had a good time, I have a proposition. If this video gets 100 upvotes, I will do my top 10 worst episodes of Season 5. I promise to have more vitriol than Jesse, Lily, John, or Tom on a bad day combined. That is if you enjoy honesty and scathing brutality. So till next time, don't ask why a plague spreads or a field burns. All for no good reason.